Hi, I'm Dr. Kevin Mailo, one of the co-hosts of the Physician Empowerment Podcast. At Physician Empowerment, we're dedicated to improving the lives of Canadian physicians personally, professionally, and financially. If you're loving what you're listening to, let us know. We always want to hear your feedback. Connect with us. If you want to go further, we've got outstanding programming both in person and online. So look us up. But regardless, we hope you really enjoy this episode. Hi, I'm Dr. Kevin Mailo with Physician Empowerment, and joining me today is my fellow Physician Empowerment faculty member and co-founder, Dr. Wing Lim. And today we're going to do things a little bit differently and talk about, maybe it's a part of our why, and also highlight a little bit about what we do, because we get lots of questions about, our events, and we have another conference coming up this May 25th and 26th in Toronto. And every year we meet as a group of physicians and non-physician spouses. We come together, we have an incredible weekend, we break bread, we laugh, we really enjoy each other's company. But I want to talk with Wing about a little bit about what that means on a more profound level, because we get lots of questions about, well, what makes your conferences different, or what makes physician empowerment different? And then I think it's worthwhile touching a little bit on to the masterclass and why that has been so popular with our very motivated, kind of more entrepreneurial physicians that are looking to get serious about wealth creation. So Wing, why don't you talk about your why as it relates to physician empowerment?
Right. Well, thank you, Kevin. So and hi everyone. And let's go back to, have we not got enough on our plates, right? Kevin, you and me, right? We got nothing better to do, right? So the whole vision of physician empowerment is to create a community, a network for peer-to-peer empowerment, right? And we go back to our founding principles and our 4 pillars of our existence, right? And the 4 pillars, again, one is physician wellness, which is totally ignored most of the time with the current burnout rate.
And you've heard me rant about that. I think most listeners have heard me rant about how wellness is currently taught and how much I disagree about it. But I'm not going to get into that right now. Please continue.
Right. Yeah. And that dovetails to the second pillar, which is financial health, right? And if you don't have financial health, your famous line, Kevin, is you can do a downward dog position in yoga. And if your finances is in shambles, it ain't going to help a lot. So financial health, and so for that, we have a very heavy emphasis because it's so rarely taught and not properly taught elsewhere. And the third pillar is leadership development. And I think that is super important because whether we like it or not, we are in leadership position. And if we want to change the future of our family, we are the one to change, right? You need to lead yourself, lead your team, lead your family. And it's the guy in the mirror, right? So leadership development is super important, any stage of your life, right? And number 4 is practice transformation. Now, in the space of practice transformation, a lot of people, actually very few people, have anywhere to go to and they learn about practice management. But practice management is not it. More fundamental is the transformation. And a lot of times the transformation starts from within again, and it's from the inside out, right? Your organization is the reflection of the leadership, which is you, and it's tried and true principle. So when we talk about all these things, then you build it together in a community, in a very safe haven that people can take down the mask, take down this toxic elitism culture that we would have been bred in and brought up in practice. And then you have a lot of fun, a lot of vulnerability, a lot of candor, and a lot of transformation within the community.
So let's touch on some of our philosophy around our live events, because Physician Empowerment is an educational organization, but I like to think that we do things differently than is traditionally taught. And our conference highlights that, because while there is going to be some fundamental and didactic learning, there is also going to be a lot of element of collaborative discussion, panelists. But talk to me about what that means in terms of lots of Q&A as well. But talk to me, Wing, in terms of what that means as far as community. And you use this phrase, fellow sojourners, to describe our wealth, creation journey, or our striving for financial security.
Right, exactly. So nobody has arrived, right? We're fellow sojourners. So the Chinese and Japanese character sensei or master's teacher, right? In that context, the word is Xin-san in Cantonese, Xian-san in Mandarin, and sensei in Japanese. That means you're born first, right? So whoever your teacher or mentor is, they would just happen to be born ahead of you, right? They're just a little further down the road than you, and you're further down the road from other people. So in this scenario, in this view, we're all we're following somebody, and when we're leading somebody, right, to follow us, right? So there's a lot of peer-to-peer fellowship and sharing, and so what is different than any other conference? Okay, I've been in practice 30 plus years, and all the CME events I've gone to, I have to pack away my spouse and kids because it's just me, right? The MD can go into the event only, right? And there are very few times I could bring my family in, and it was so much fun. And I said, we're going to create a new breed of medical events that is not just medical, that spouses are actually welcome, right? They're part of it. And we talk about all those four pillars, especially family health and wealth, building the relationship. That's so crucial, right? So we'll make sure that this is extremely spousal friendly. And in fact, sometimes we have events that the MD or the professional can show up and the spouse shows up, and they fit right in because somebody has to control the purse string, so to speak, right? And it may not be the dog, right? It may be the spouse. And so it is community friendly, it's spousal friendly, it's a time to get away, no kids, just the partners and the life partners going into the event and spend time whole weekend together with other like-minded people. So it is family friendly, and B, it's not a USB. Like I go to a lot of medical conferences, you may as well just plug in a USB into the head and do a download, right? It's straight, just information exchange. And but we're going to do, we have nuts and bolts with didactic sessions, but we'll do an 18-inch drop, which means that it sinks from the brain to the heart, right? We definitely would touch the heart. And you will recall, Kevin, and those who attended some conferences, actually every conference, we touch the heart and there's some tears shed, right? And it will touch your heart. It would have you dig deep and echo in your soul, right? We want to have that kind of experience and connection within and without.
And I think that's really, yeah, I mean, for me, that's a key part of the work we do in physician empowerment, that this is so much more than knowledge or strategies, but it's true change. And, reflecting in my own financial journey and all the growth that I've undergone when it comes to creating wealth, that change didn't just come with knowledge or facts or figures or reading books. That change for me came with being part of a community. And, that's probably the part that I feel so grateful for as I reflect on my work in physician empowerment has been, not just what we teach, but what we learn from fellow attendees and how we support one another, share stories, and really get inspired about living a different life. And I keep saying this, and I know I sound like a broken record, but life has to be better now. Right? Like we as physicians constantly live in this trap of the future of when. When I'm done medical school, things will be better. When I'm done residency, things will be better. When I'm done fellowship, things will be better. When I'm settled in practice and paid off my student loans, things will be better. When I paid the mortgage, things will be better. When the kids are growing up, things will be better. But that's a big fallacy. That number one, life is always going to have challenges. So there won't ever be that day when you don't have problems. Because if you don't have problems, you're probably not relevant. Let me be honest. And then,
well, they say that the only place on earth without problems is the graveyard.
Exactly. And then the other reflection is like, no, life can be better now. And that's so important, right? Because we think like, oh, I just have to suffer through this. That's not true, right? You can make life better. And a cornerstone of making life better is getting your finances in order. And that's where physician empowerment remains so passionate and committed. Because although we have the four pillars of wellness, leadership, practice transformation, the key here, though, the key ingredient, and this is when I teach it to residents, money isn't the cake, but it's certainly one of the ingredients when it comes to being happy. And so again, it's not just about, learning in that very didactic sense, but it's finding a way to light that fire inside of you where you want to make meaningful change in your life, learn the skills, but more importantly, learn to apply the skills, which I think is so important.
Right, exactly. And yeah, so you touch on this point. I'm going to expound on that a little bit. So wealth building, it is not playing solitaire. It is a team sport, right? You need a team. And who's the team, right? You need to, and we'll give you a checkup on the neck up on that department. And so for the Toronto conference, I would preface it with, hey, what's in common between a tax accountant and international real estate tax expert, a CPA, and two physician coaches and some real estate entrepreneurs and two top-notch product agnostic wealth planners. What do they have in common? Well, they're all coming to Toronto to talk to us, right? This is definitely a plethora of very high-powered faculty members joining us.
And again, I think that's a key part of the value brought with these sorts of events, where you get to be in a room, not only with your fellow physicians, asking their questions and you're listening and starting to ask your own questions in your head, but just being able to even listen to the crosstalk with some of our incredible panelists and speakers and listen to them share different perspectives on, let's say, estate planning or, how to be most tax efficient in your real estate investments. All of those sorts of things are so, so crucial because very often you don't even know the questions you should be asking, let alone the answers. And so that's, again, another key element to what I think a weekend like ours coming up really brings.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll touch on so many levels. I'm envisioning a non-medical spousal panel that will interview non-medical spouse, right? And see.
Yeah, we're growing. We're getting there. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I love that.
Yeah. And it's not just physicians anymore, right? We get dentists, we get other professionals joining us, right? So because we're more alike, again, we're more alike than we're different, right? It doesn't matter what kind of medical specialty that we practice in, right? We're really east to west coast, IMGs, locals, different ethnicity, different cold creed color, right? We were all more similar than different. And we all fought a very lonesome journey. So this is a place, right? It's like what the Fellowship of the Ring, right?
Don't worry, I'm a huge Lord of the Fans nerd myself. So
exactly. So this is the fellowship, right? This is where you come in and say, yeah, we're together, right? And I love the transparency, the vulnerability. Like I think it was a radiologist from somewhere said that I didn't even dare to ask this question in my department because I would have sounded so dumb. It's a financial question. It's not a medical question, right? But they could not even open their mouth and ask a very fundamental question about their finance because they would appear so dumb. But they felt that they're so safe here they can ask any questions. Nobody's too dumb. Nobody's too smart, right? And just by the energy drawn in the room, right? I think last year by the second day afternoon, you can just feel even the breath in the room is almost in unison.
Yeah.
So right, it was so fun, so electrifying. Yeah.
I think that's really powerful. And the other thing too is, I mean, I've said this before, in earlier episodes, but it is not simply about reaching the destination. If your financial journey and your career can be thought of as a marathon, it is not simply enough that you cross the finish line. The question is what do you want to look like and how do you want to feel as you cross it? Do you want to be ragged, missing a shoe, sprained ankle, scraped knees because it was such a difficult journey, such a difficult marathon? Or do you want to confidently stride across that line knowing that it was a great run? And that's the way I look at my own retirement when I try to get there. And again, that's what's so powerful about, like you said, Wing, building the team. And you can build it any way you want or need, but I think it's important to recognize that all of us should have a team of professionals that we engage with and that we, learn to coordinate and manage so that today life gets better, that I am not worried about the ups and downs in the market. I am not worried about debt management because I have somebody on my team who's helping with that. I think it is so key.
It's so true. Now let's dial back. You talk about this analogy of a marathon race and you finish nice and good. But how about if you don't even know you're in a marathon race? You thought you were running a 100-meter dash.
Yeah, I've been there. I've had years like that. Totally.
Right. And it was a marathon race, but you ran it like a 100-meter dash, then you're done. You're spent after 100-meter, and then you don't even know what's happening. Right. And you thought you're ahead of everybody, but you're not, you're all spent. And I find that more often than not, our colleagues, our medical colleagues, are exactly like that, right? They suddenly wake up, go to a seminar and say, oh, I knew nothing about this financial thing. And right, and they just nose down, bum up, and just do something they thought they're really focused, but no, you can't. You cannot do all of these within a week or two, right? You can do your annual returns by a crunch, but when you plan your life, right, talk about intergenerational wealth building, retirement, all that, and structurally doing sound, tax-wise, structurally sound, it is not a 100-meter dash.
And it's not something you look at once a year.
No.
That's critical, right? I mean, you talk about it as continuing business education, right? CBE, not just CME.
That's right.
And it's not just practice development, but it's our financial lives as well. And that's, I mean, let me just pivot to the masterclass because we get lots of questions about the masterclass, and I think it's worth talking about it. This is our most popular offering with our physicians that are really focused on like, okay, let's start to build that net worth. Let's start to build up that passive income and start reaching my dreams. And I'm not talking about career dreams, but I'm talking about personal dreams, whether it's travel or semi-retirement or time with family or whatever have you. And so, you know, the masterclass is us meeting as a group every month to take a deep dive on a financial topic. And it's led by you, Wing. It's led by some of our expert faculty members who come from different backgrounds in tax law, accounting, financial planning, all of these, you know, again, specialists who you should be calling or asking your questions with. I mean, when I'm in the emergency department and I have a cardiology question, it's probably not useful to pull every doctor on shift about what to do with this thing. It's probably more useful to pick up the phone and speak to a consultant, which is exactly what I did last night after none of us could figure out the 12 lead. So, and so this is, I mean, this is how you do it, but it's not just about, again, the number, it's about the journey, right? That meeting as a group ends up being a lot of fun, deeply rewarding, and a way to stay connected and motivated on that journey.
Right.
And then, of course, I mean, when you meet with everybody monthly as needed to help people stay on track and to help people do their own exploration and find their own goals, because we're all going to have a different path to wealth creation. That's another key element.
Exactly.
Yes, we have a shared destination, but some of us are going to take some side roads to get there, or are going to just do it our own way, but making sure we're doing it the best version of ourselves.
Right. So we all have our own personal quest, right, for you and your family. And we respect each other, we cheer each other on, right? But each one, when they navigate through that dark, horrible, perilous jungle, you need a roadmap. And people don't even have a roadmap, right? So part of what we offer is to help people figure out their own personal family roadmap, right? And then we coach them along. And so back to your consult with the cardiologist, 12 leads, let's take an analogy, right? So we all have a crash card, right, at the department. You want to run codes. And so you have different ingredients in this crash card, right? Each one is potent. If you give a wrong person, they'll die, right? So what masterclass is about is we open up the crash card, right? We demystify the crash card and take out each ingredient and teach methodically each ingredient, what they do not do, right? So for example, this past academic year, which is from June to May, that we talk about tax planning, right? Advanced tax planning, as named Fat PC Skinny Me. That's a funny topic, right? And we systematically look at each facet of advanced tax planning, right? To tell you each strategy, and then we put it back together, right? And this is just like learn everything, and then now you have algorithms to run through, right? And then you know what you're dealing with. You got tools in the toolbox. You got knowledge in your head. You got a perspective. Then you know what game you're playing and how you play it, right? So I think that's the value of masterclass. You can You can go listen to gazillion podcasts. Number one, I found that the reason that you and I can we have to start our stuff is they're mostly American, right? And it doesn't apply to us. And B, for the few Canadian ones, of course, each have their strength, but we definitely want a more deep dive with a small group that people can just ask the faculty questions at the end of the session, right? And
Yeah, I would just add, and this is more broadly, this isn't specifically to finance, but there is a lot of facts and information, figures, and knowledge out there in the world. At no point in human history have people been so inundated with that, but there is very little wisdom. There is very little meaningful shared experience. There is very little sense of community. And I think that for me is what, again, resonates so deeply with physician empowerment is that notion of having a bit of collective wisdom. I've certainly learned a lot from you, Wing, over the years, and it's been transformative in my life. And it's not just the knowledge that you can pick up and read out of a book. It's that wisdom of I've been there, done it, learned it. Here's what you should think about.
Right. And thank you for your compliment, Kevin. And I definitely have been blessed by a lot of my mentors. My mentors come in different shapes and form and stage. They don't have to be like the one-on-one sensei. You follow like a disciple, right? You learn from everybody a little bit. And so that's why we have internship and residency and fellowship, right? In our training, because it's not just read a bunch of articles, double-blind trials, other journals. No, you need a perspective, right? You need a way of thinking. So let's say you want to learn about tea in Japanese. There's this the way of tea. The Chinese call it chado, right? And Taekwondo. The do means a way, right? Taekwondo, judo. It's a way of thinking, way of doing, right? I'm learning Tai Chi now with my wife, and definitely the master just teaches you from the depth, the origin, how your body, how you achieve those, and that's exactly an apprentice program, right? Like that's how we became who we are professionally, right? And so it is that kind of discipleship to think like this discipler, right? The master, the sensei, the maestro, right? And that's what because I train under so and so, right? And definitely when we do deep dive in this kind of fashion and masterclass session, is definitely to help you shape, get the perspective, think differently, and so it's not just what about that? How does that apply to me and my family, right? It becomes more hands-on. And people, you can talk to masterclass attendees after a year or so, they change, they start to change, to transform.
Yeah. And again,
yeah.
I don't know if there's much more to say. I mean, that's what it is, right? To summarize it again, because we do get these questions, it's that power of community, that power of shared experience and shared narrative, the ability to access people who are truly expert in a field, which I think is so important, so that we're not wasting our time going down the wrong rabbit holes, because often you don't even know what questions to be asking, let alone the answers.
Right. And it's a smorgasbord. It's the potluck. You come, you give some, you take some.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not just coming to take, you come here to contribute as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's something that you could share that are valuable lessons. Right. Part of our journey is we are transparent with all our mistakes and scars and back, stupid mistakes that we've done. We're transparent, right? So we can all share and learn from it. Right. And I'm sure you and I, everybody have their own journey with stupid mistakes or triumphant stories to share. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, yeah, if anyone is curious, wants to know more, especially about the masterclass, because that's, the one that every month we've got open enrollment. So go ahead and if you're interested, apply or let us know that you want to join and connect with us, because, Wing or I'd be happy to meet and discuss further if this is something that appeals to you, because, without doing things different, we're all doomed to that pattern of simply repeating ourselves and expecting a different result. Like if 2024 is going to be a better year, it requires meaningful change in our lives and taking big, bold steps. And having gone through enormous financial growth myself over the last, several years in terms of being more knowledgeable and having a healthier risk tolerance and things, it came with taking some big steps and really pushing myself to get out there and learn from some of the best, like Wing and our fellow masterclass faculty. So yeah, again, I want to thank you, Wing, for what you've shared in terms of not only your knowledge in the masterclass, but also that wisdom and some of your own battle scars.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I'm just going to end by one saying that helped me, and it goes like this: if you want to have something you haven't got, you need to do something you haven't done. Oof. Right? If you want to change, you got to make a change. So come join us to embark on your transformation journey.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Okay, thank you so much, Wing. And
great. Okay, thanks.
If anyone's interested, do reach out to us. Cheers.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys in Toronto.
Thank you so much for listening to the Physician Empowerment Podcast. If you're ready to take those next steps in transforming your practice, finances, or personal well-being, then come and join us at phys-empowerment.ca, PHYS empowerment.ca, to learn more about how we can help. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd really appreciate it if you would share our podcast with a colleague or friend, and head over to Apple Podcasts to give us a 5-star rating and review. If you've got feedback, questions, or suggestions for future episode topics, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to join us and be interviewed and share some of your story, we'd absolutely love that as well. Please send me an email at kmilo@phys-empowerment.ca. Thank you again for listening.